All right, guys, good afternoon to everybody. Saturday again, getting closer and closer to Thanksgiving. Today, Brian here with VetteSource checking in. Would have had another probably parts teardown video for you today as I continue working on our Formula 350 over there. If you've been following me, I finally got our inner fender painted. Started to paint, so we're looking pretty good here. So we're gonna get cracking back on this again. But had an opportunity come up this week and I wanted to take advantage of it. Now, for those of you that have followed me too, you've seen the competition yellow 96 LT4 that I've talked about in quite a few videos here. I do appreciate all the comments and likes I got on the last video I did where I was talking about some of the differences with these cars. So this week, something presented itself that is not very common, especially in the Corvette world. Now, Corvettes are kind of bought as secondary vehicles, as toys. They're not used as daily drivers. This week, I had a gentleman contact me through some of my contacts with what I do, looking to sell his car. And what we ended up having here was a higher mileage Corvette. So like I said, most people don't use these Corvettes as a daily driver vehicle. What they do is they kind of keep them for weekend drives or going cruising or the car shows and stuff like that. So this car was kind of interesting because it's a 96, and again, it's another LT4, go figure. So it's a 96 LT4 Corvette, and it has about 133,000 miles on it. This car was actually driven the last 4 or 5 years quite a bit. The gentleman's primary car, which again, this was a secondary car for him, broke down and he was forced to use this as a daily driver, and he put a lot of miles on it, and he worked in a more industrial setting on the ship channel here in Houston, and the car was basically just sitting at a ship channel yard all day as boats came in and out. But it gave me a good opportunity as I looked at it, and I said, you know what, this will be a good way to show durability of these later Corvettes and a lot of the C4s. C4s are still the only 35, 40-year-old car that you can kind of just jump in and go drive if that's what you want to do. So this car is also unique, in addition to being an LT4, is it is a bright aqua metallic. I'm sure in the video it looks kind of more darker blue, but this is the bright aqua metallic that the cars came with. So what I'm gonna do real quick is just kind of highlight how well these things hold up as a daily driver and show you some of the things that will naturally wear if you decide to use them as a daily driver. Now, of course, the first thing is funny. You see that glass right there where it's actually worn through? One of the big problem areas on these, not problem, but just wear. They did a lot of improvements in the late doors inside the structure to keep the glass from moving too far. You can see how I can move that. There's a keeper, a guide in here with a long rod that runs up and down, and it's actually got a steel, it's kind of like a hook, and what it does is as it comes up and down, it guides it into place. Well, that plastic piece of that will break and let this window do what it's doing. In fact, it's doing it on both sides of the car, so that will have to be addressed. But looking at it visually, and again, this car wasn't abused, it just wasn't babied, right? You wouldn't really be able to tell this car has 130 plus thousand miles on it. Oh, and just as an aside, which is quite funny, if you watch my last video where I talked about the 96 over here LT4, I was under the impression myself, even though I've been around these, that none of the 96s had the Mobile One placard under the hood, and lo and behold, this 96 has a Mobile One placard. Now, I did some research on this the other night because I had some feedback from some of the viewers about it, and it turns out, from what I can tell, that at least the first 3,000 to 4,000 cars had that Mobile One sticker. This is an early build 96. This was a little over VIN number 2000, so this was built the 21st day of production. So it's still got that Mobile One sticker under the hood. Now, this one was built, this is an 8000 VIN, and the stickers, the placard's not under the hood. So it looks like around VIN number, you know, late 3000s, early 4000s is when they got rid of them. The earliest one I found without one is build number 4290, I think was the car I was looking at. So, you know, just an interesting thing. Again, it must have been, obviously they ran out of them, so they didn't bother to reorder them from the supplier. But you can see this is another Grand Sport LT4 Aqua Metallic. This car itself is even rarer than this one. This car, they only made 60 of these in this color with this LT4 engine. So it's an extremely uncommon color. And frankly, what I was laughing is that since I brought it back over here to the house, I've had probably 4 or 5 neighbors or people like, oh, I love that color. I have a comfort of that color. The Florida Dolphins, you know, is that color. It's kind of funny. So it's just kind of an unusual thing you don't see very often. Now you can see, looking at it, the motor's dirty, it's filthy, you know, it's got grease everywhere. You can actually see collection of sand, and of course I'm sure this came from being around the water and such. So it definitely needs a horribly, it's in horrible need of a detail. Now, the body wise, there's no damage to the body, there's no stress cracks, there's no shifting of bolts, and again, this was just driven, right? This is in good shape here. Your soft items are starting to wear. So our outer window sweeps are bad, our weather stripping has gone bad. You see right here, the carpet is still in amazingly good shape. You got a little bit of wrinkling and waffling back here in this corner, which is normal with the sun exposure, but it's not threadbare, it hasn't been sunburned. These seats were recovered at one particular time. I think when he bought the car 5 years ago when it had 95,000 miles on it. But you can see everything is still in good shape. In fact, it even, let's see, parking brake is not working on this car. Let's see if I can get in here so you can see. Door shut solid. Now, the door hinge is broken on this car, so the door won't hold open, so that's got to be addressed. But you can get in it. And it fires right up. AC is still working. Now you see here how faint the numbers are on the dash. The LCD is starting to go bad in this. I have another LT4 cluster with the 8 grand tax, so I'll put that in there. But you can see it's got a little bit of curling on the edges of the door or the dash pad. Nothing too horrible, nothing you'd be embarrassed about. Like I said, AC's working. Is the CD? Let's see, is it working? Yeah, it works. So yeah, everything works in here. It's quite amusing to think about. Now the other issue, really, that's got to be addressed is this weather stripping. Looks really, really, really bad. But again, you can see that, like I talked about in my previous video, this has this rubberized outer coating and the foam is inside. So you can see they did a much better job of maintaining that weather stripping. As I forget to put it in gear. Parking brake is also not working, which is something we'll have to address. The antenna, of course, like all Corvettes, is broken and fixed into one spot. The hatch struts are still working. And my GoPro battery went dead. So I was in mid-thought there talking about the hatch struts still working. The see-through top is still in the car. The back package tray is not cracked like a lot of them get. And general, just really good shape. One thing I did forget, 2 things actually I forgot about this car, was now, in the last 5 years this gentleman had this car, it has sat actually for the last 18 months because the clip that holds the clutch rod on the clutch cable or clutch pedal broke, and he wasn't sure how to fix it. And then of course you've got the typical problem that you get 90 through 96s, the door panels get loose here. There's some ribbing in this corner that holds those together or puts tension on them and they break, they crack. Also, of course, the headlight motors, the infamous GM headlight motors are stripped, the nylon bushings are stripped out. You can hear those going. So it's just typical stuff that needs to be fixed. This car could still honestly just be enjoyed every day and driven around. without much thought about whether or not it was going to break down on you. Tires are worn, so it's got new tires in the back. Fronts are, you know, worn, and suspension. I think it's even got still the original shocks in the front here. The original yellow Bilsteins that were installed on these cars. So overall, it kind of proves the point, like I was saying, that of all the C4s, if you're looking to get a C4, get into Corvettes, you cannot beat right now these 94 through 96 cars, because all the improvements that they wanted to put on them over the years that they figured out are installed on these cars. And guys, you know, they're so dirt cheap right now. These are sub $10,000 cars, and you could jump into this and drive it across the country without even thinking twice about it. So again, I know I sound you know, like a salesman, but I advocate for these because these are really fun cars. And you know, you can always get the newest and greatest, supposedly, but these are just good, well-built cars, and you will have a lot of fun with these. I keep forgetting that it's broken. I don't want to open it, and not be any less fun in it, because it's just as fun to drive as any of the new ones. So I'm gonna probably put this one away for now. I don't think I'm going to do too much to it just yet. And then what we'll do is I'll probably start a separate video series. This will go pretty quickly, just showing replacing these items that need to be replaced, you know, repainting this piece of trim right here where the sun has gotten through the black paint, fixing that right there. But other than that, I'm really not going to mess with it that much. So heck, maybe I'll get it down the road with this one side by side, and we'll see which one's faster. Although that would be interesting to see. I think the yellow one's got a little bit more power. Oh, and you know, one thing I did notice, you know, I did another really thorough video talking about the LT4 engine, and I don't know if you can see in there or not, but take a look how clean that motor is inside there. That's 133,000 miles, and I can still actually see the LT4 casting embossed into the head right there. That's how clean that is inside. There's our 1.6 crane roller rocker right there from the factory. So that just again is another testament to how durable these LT series motors are, really. And I think this gentleman was probably pretty good about keeping his oil changed, but you can see it's worn in, you know. So anyway, that's gonna wrap things up today. I'll be back next week with some more teardown stuff, and let me know what you guys think. If this is, I mean, it is a unique color. It's very often not seen as much. Yellow, you know, or black and red get the biggest set of attention, but it is an attractive colored car. It's just unusual. They didn't come out with very many of them like this. So we'll check back with you guys next week. Hope everybody has a rest of their good weekend. We'll see you guys then.